All right, so we're able to move around and pick up these objects, but we want to indicate to the player that this can be picked up. So we're going to put an interaction text over top of this. It will show the key binding for the pickup action, which is E, the E key. So I'm just going to hard code it though for now. So what we want to do is we're going to create a UI canvas. So let's create a canvas, and this one's going to be called interact. And we're going to make it a world space canvas. And the world space, we're going to position it at 0, 0. When you instantiate it, it doesn't really matter, so I like to put it at the origin. The width is going to be 300 by 100. That's the size of the canvas you want. And the scale is going to be 0.001 because it'll be too big otherwise, so we need to scale it down. So it's right here. So there's your 300 by 100. So then in here we're going to add a UI text mesh pro. So we're going to call that text. This will be, for now I'm going to make it interact, and then I'm going to make sure it's centered up and down, and we're going to set the font size to 50 maybe, and the width should be okay. So we're going to move it a little bit there, and now we're going to make an image, a UI image. Just call it image, and it's going to have one of the built-in sprites. I think it may come with either with the input system, or it just happens usually is in every project. So I'm just going to use this UI sprite. It's just a rounded box. So we're going to make this 50 by 50, and we are going to just move it over here. So minus 100 is good. And then we're going to change this a little bit. On top of the image, we're going to do another text. So UI text mesh pro. And this would be the binding, the label. I'm going to just call it label and make it a child of image. And then we're going to just call it E. And we're going to make it black so we can see it. And we'll be able to see it if I move this whole thing. It's better. So the label, and then we want to center it as well. And the position 0. And the width can be 50. There we go. Okay, so now it's in the center of that. So this is basically what we're going to do. So we're going to have this display on top of our objects. So what we're going to do now is make this a prefab. So drag it into my prefabs folder, and then we can delete it from the scene. And then let's add that to the basketball. So what we want to do is add a hotspot and change it to on interaction focus, because we've got the focus interaction to the center of the screen right now. And then we want to add UI show floating text, which takes a prefab. So this is where the prefab comes in. Make it interact. That's our prefab. And now we can change this text to anything. So when you select the text there, it will take the first text field it finds inside your prefab, and it will update it. So it will update this one. If we had the text below the label, then it would do the label instead, and then it would update the E, which we don't want. So, but maybe you could do it that way as well. You could have a static text and then a one-letter label that changes either way you want to do it, you could do it that way. I'm just going to do it that way for now. So basketball, the interact. Okay, so we've got no offset. So, but we'll see that we're not going to be able to see it properly because it's going to be inside the object. So where's my, over here. So yeah, it's displaying, but it's inside the objects. So what we want to do is to make it to always on top it. So what we want to do is create another camera, an overlay camera. Call it overlay, and we'll make it a child of the main camera. Okay, so we're going to make it, I think 0, 0, 0, right on top of the main camera so that it works properly. Call it an overlay camera. I'm going to take out the audio listener. We don't need that. And then on the main camera, okay, so we're going to add it to the camera stack. So overlay, so the overlay. And then we're going to set up our layers. So overlay camera will render, I'll add a new layer called overlay. So we'll have it, the culling mask be just the overlay. And the main camera culling mask will be everything except the overlay. So that now the overlay will be on top of the main camera. So that should fix that. Oh, and the last thing we have to do before we do that is the interact needs to be on the overlay layer and change children. So the interact prefab should be on the overlay layer. So now let's see if that fixes it. Okay, where's my, there it is. And there it is. So I've got your label on top of it, which is nice. And then it will automatically display and as the player comes near to it to show the player that he can pick it up. And if you want to shift it a little bit to the right, like it's right on top of the object but not quite centered, we can change the position of it as well. So you can set your offset a little bit to shift it in the X maybe. So let's see, values, vector components, X, let's try like 0.1 in the X. Okay. And yeah, that moved it a little bit. So if you want it in the center, you can do it like that. You could just play around with the offset that you have set on each object. So, or you can do vector and you can type them in that way as well. So all you have to do to each of your prefabs is to just add a hotspot to it and put the interact in it. And the box, I'll do the box as well. Interact. And the other thing you could do is store this string in a variable and then pick it up from the variable. So that's one other thing we can do. So let's pick up text, say, and you can set that to a string, and you can go pick up. And then from here, instead of text, we can say global name variables and pick up text. And that's the ball that I added that to. Okay. So we can do that. Let's change that to get. And the basketball. Try that. And then so we have our basketball. And we have our box. And the ball. Ball is a smaller object, so it goes on the either side of them, but it works fairly well. You can play around with the offset and even the color of the text and whatever you want to do. But so that's it for this video. Next video, I think we're going to be working on a stamina and a meter and maybe hit points for a first-person shooter. So stay tuned for that. Like, subscribe, comment down below, and we will see you in the next one.